Welcome to Crystal Clear Moments. Hi there, I'm Crystal Blackwell, your host, executive coach, speaker, and your biggest cheerleader on this journey of transformation. This just isn't another podcast. It's a space where aha moments happen, where we get real about the twists, turns, and breakthroughs that shape us. You know those moments when everything just clicks? Well, that's what we're here for. Every episode, we dive into powerful conversations with inspiring leaders, change makers, and everyday warriors. We have faced challenges, embraced growth, and found clarity in chaos. We'll laugh, we'll learn, and we'll learn to leave every conversation a little wiser and a lot more empowered. So if you're ready for an eye-opening, inside, bold conversation and some serious motivation, you're in the right place. Let's get clear, let's get inspired, and let's make every moment count. This is Crystal Clear Moments, where one breakthrough can change everything. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Crystal Clear Moments, Crystal Blackwell's podcast. And you know what? I know when you guys hear this podcast, we are going to be dead into the summer months. So you know what? Listen to this podcast by the pool, while you're doing your walk with your dog, while you're chilling with your cocktail, at the beach. But I think this is going to be a refreshing conversation we're going to have today. I'm excited. I met today's guest, you guys know I'm always meeting the most amazing people. And this guest I met, we both were speakers at an equity forum for women.
That's right.
And right away, we just kind of gelled and we talked. And, the one thing I can tell you is that because we both were speakers at this particular forum, that we both care about women, and we care about people, and we care about the people's psychological safety, and we just want to help. We're servers in the community. So that's a whole lot to connect, especially women. And then her being, a younger woman, which is cool. I love to see when our younger women are thriving and they're living their passion and their purpose, and they're not afraid. So this boss here is courageous. So let me introduce you to Dr. Miss Dr. Alexis Faison, right? Let me just give you some background of her before we dive into hearing her story, her crystal clear moments, and what is in place in her spirit to direct her for her future endeavor. So she's a clinical assistant professor at ASU, Arizona State University, counselor psychology at ASU, where she teaches and mentors. And I love that. In her bio, she mentions mentors a lot. And I think we're finally understand the power of mentorship. And anyone who knows me knows I'm really passionate about mentors and being an effective mentee, because it's a partnership, right?
Yes, it is.
We may have to tap into that arrangement as well.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Definitely. But she's licensed, so she knows her stuff. But she's leaned into a particular work that I think is pretty fascinating, which is Black and BIPOC populations through culturally responsive, trauma-informed care. So we're going to talk about how that shows up in our community, and what we're doing about it. But I love the fact that not only she's focusing on that, she's allowed her work to even go to a different space, into wellness financially. So I love to hear how that you sort of, I think about what you're doing, and visually I think of like a spider web and how you've webbed into this space, like what took you into financial wellness when you originally were focusing on trauma and from the BIPOC community. So I know they're related.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we know they're related. So we're going to talk about that. You're the founder of Thrive Well Counseling and Consulting, LLC, a wellness initiative that provides mental health education, clinical services, and counseling rooted in cultural humility and justice. She is also, when you're really good at something, people reward you. So she's also a recipient of ASU, Arizona State University, which I think is the second largest university in the nation.
Yes.
Big school, huge presence, outstanding faculty mentor award, and outstanding teaching award. So thank you for accepting to be a guest on my show. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Crystal. I am so excited to spend time with you, to share space with you, to have a wonderful conversation today. It feels good.
Thank you. You look beautiful and radiant. Look like you're ready to share some information with us.
I got a little something to share.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So let's just dive in, because like I said, I think your story is fascinating, and I love that I know just enough to be a little nosy.
Okay, girl.
So
Come on with it.
We're gonna do that.
Let's share the tea. Let's
share the tea. So you really went into like the trauma informed, and I know we're hearing that a lot lately.
Yes.
Everyone is understanding what trauma is, which is, I think, is a beautiful thing. We've gotten beyond defining trauma as, maybe, which is trauma, but we've gotten beyond saying only trauma looks like rape. It only looks like domestic violence. And we understand that trauma can be neglect, can be not getting the proper nutrition, and all the things.
All the things.
And it's personal, how it shows up for you. So how did your studies lend you to really lean into trauma within our community?
Yeah. Well, I just have to be honest. It really just came from the conversations I was having with the clients that I worked with. It started with my education and my training at Arizona State University, where I did my master's and PhD. But I think beyond that, it was actual clinical work I was doing, realizing that we can't talk about healing and talk about, the anxiety, the depression, all the things that are showing up and manifesting without talking about some of the deep-rooted, traumas that individuals had, childhood trauma, generational trauma that's been passed down. And I think those are things that sometimes get ignored and overlooked because of what's presenting in the moment, what's here and now. It's like, oh, it's appearing as social anxiety. It's appearing as depression. You're just struggling to get out of bed. Like, you need to get out of this, right?
Right.
And it's like, well, hold on. Let's explore not only kind of the symptoms that are here and now, but what got us to this point? And what are some of those underlying deep-seated issues that have never been touched or addressed? And I think that's honestly where I started to see it manifest. And I mean, the reality is, I love how you acknowledge that, yes, we can't just, give this nice little label to what trauma is and like everyone's in this box, because we know that trauma manifests differently in all of us. And it is a personal journey. And, one of the things I've realized though in my work is that even though some individuals may normalize certain things that are just deemed traumatic, we talk about the body response and how our body, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, but it's the reality. Our body is aware of what's happening, So it's like, even if you've normalized something, and for my BIPOC community members and Black community members that I work with, in counseling, we talk about this. There's a lot of things that we normalize, like even down to something like I was talking to a client the other day about discipline. And how we were raised, like how we were raised back in the day, and how I used to go out and get a switch from the tree, how we were disciplined in that way. And really talking about that trauma,
like the spanking.
The spanking, and how that was how we were told, well, I love you because I do this, and I'm teaching you something, versus now how we are unlearning some of those things as we're now parents, and how that's so important. So, it's complex, but it's also beautiful when people understand and start to name and acknowledge those things that they identify as trauma for them. And I really love this idea of like reclaiming power. And it really is like speaking your truth. What is your story? And knowing that just because you've endured trauma in your life doesn't mean that that has to stay with you throughout your life. And it doesn't have to be like the defining point for you. Because I've heard clients say that of like, I don't want that whatever happened back then to define me now. That's not who I am. And I'm like, no, that's one part of your story. It doesn't have to be what your future looks like. But I think it comes from naming that and holding space.
So you covered a whole lot, but I want to go back and I want you to share with our listeners, what are some of the things that we normalize? Because I think, a lot of these words and terms are new. And like pop culture, this pop psychology. We'll use words like triggers and boundaries and, all those things. But I like definitions and I like examples. So can you give us some examples of some of the things that we normalize so that people can say, okay, they can identify with it and they can really like come along with us on this journey today on this podcast.
Yeah. And I'll go back to the discipline piece, because I feel like that's one that I talk to a lot of new parents about, right? Of like, how do we begin to unlearn some of the ways we were raised, right? Of like and it could be something that maybe some may deem minor. Like one of the things I recently talked to a client about was how growing up, we were told to stay out of grown folks' business, right? And like stay in your place, know your place. And you think about that for a lot of kids, that's silencing. Like we're silencing their voice, right?
So that's what we're saying. When we say that, we're saying what?
When you say stay in your place, don't ask me questions, you're saying, you're a child, staying like, your thoughts and opinions are not welcome here.
Oh boy.
It's not, we don't desire that. Like it almost puts you in a corner. It isolates you, right? As a child.
Like
in
you
those
don't
moments.
matter. Your
you
voice
don't matter. Your voice does not matter here. You don't have a say in what goes on in this house.
Yeah. And that's trauma.
That is, because here's the thing, what that message then goes on to tell you throughout your life. And for some clients, right, and this varies. This is why I always say it is a personal journey.
Absolutely.
Because someone may hear that and be like, I was told that. And look at me now and I'm fine.
But we're all different.
But we're all different.
Right.
But for some, that message is internalized of, I'm not worthy. I'm not loved. I can't speak my truth. I didn't want that hug from uncle. And I was told that it didn't matter because we hug our family. When silencing occurred right there, right? It's like, hold on now. I told you I wasn't comfortable, but then that was shut down. And you lost that voice in that moment.
So let's take that particular, that messaging to a 5-year-old. Let's walk through her life. How does that show up when she's like a preteen?
It shows up, and I mean, I've seen this, and I have a 6-year-old, by the way, so I'm seeing some of these things. Like, I have to catch myself, and I'll be honest, like, in all transparency, I have to catch myself naming and saying some of those things, and having to go back and apologize to her and like,
good for you.
Hey, I know that mommy said that, this wasn't the time, or I didn't have time to hear you right now, but I do want to hear what you had to say. Like, and going back to repair. It's hard work for y'all. It's so important. But when I think about what that 5-year-old looks like as a preteen, as a teenager, I likely imagine them not knowing how to use their voice, not speaking up, like even in a classroom setting, like knowing an answer, but not raising their hand because they have this inherent belief that maybe I'm wrong, I'm doubting myself, no one really cares what I have to say anyway. When peer pressured into something, feeling like, okay, well, my no is not going to be heard, or it's not going to be respected. I might as well go along with certain things, right? And once again, these are all just hypotheses and potential, realities. But I do believe if we don't, address that at an early age and like name that of like, we get that in the home you were silenced. But like as a teacher, I always say that school and like having mentors, having other adult figures in your life can begin to, what's the word I want to say? Like undo some of that that's been done, especially like if we think about like the nuclear family of like your parents saying that to you. If a teacher then says, I see you have an answer, Crystal. Crystal, I see you were about to raise your hand and you're like, no. Little Crystal's like, no. But it's like, no. Your thoughts are welcome here. I see you here. And then the student is like, yeah, here's my thoughts. And it's like, okay, well, that was maybe a repair for that child in that moment. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So those experiences, I think, can help with that. But if not addressed, and if no one else sees that and is able to tap into that child to say, this isn't just shyness, because this is what I also see. I think sometimes
I hate that word shy. Is it even a thing? But
and I mean, maybe someone's personality maybe is more introverted,
more reserved,
more
introvert, but not shy.
And once again, if someone decides to label themselves as shy, then that's what it is, right? But really finding a way to really see what's beneath that, like, and to realize that there's a person here who does have thoughts and who does want to use their voice, but has been so trapped and not able to, because they have to stay in their place, and then not really knowing what is their place. Where is that welcome?
So we have her, and the reason why I want this, because I think this is a familiar journey. For all of us to sort of identify how it looks. Because there's some of us, there's women, men who are out there in the adult space that can't name what they're doing. And really the message came from, stay in a child's place or mind your own business or, those type of messaging. And it's showing up differently. So now we have her like high school, maybe early college years. Like, what is it? How is that showing up for that and for her at this point?
Yeah. And I mean, once again, trying to think, right? I always say there's so many different factors, right? And I always say it depends, right? That's my favorite thing as a counselor. Clients are like, I want to know. I'm like, well, it depends, right?
Because and we get that.
Depending on who, comes into that person's life. And especially, I work with a lot of college age kids, young adults. And I remember having like really important conversations with them when I was working at a college counseling center. And it was interesting because I often thought, well, if you didn't come in at this juncture of your life, like when would you have been introduced to therapy, right? Because I saw a lot of students for the very first time in college, like 18, 19, first time, ever coming to therapy, but having a lot to unpack. And it wasn't just an adjustment of like coming to college,
when
right?
I was 5.
Okay, so let's take it back, right? To that little Crystal or that girl who's now a young adult. Trying to navigate life away from home, now able to kind of walk in her independence and truth and to have a voice because now as an adult, right? We always say, typically, right? We say at 18, oh, you're an adult.
You're not.
You have freedom and you can do everything you want to do, right? But we know, right? Because we've lived it that, there are other things that come up, right? And there's still more growing and maturing to do.
Absolutely.
So then
that whole brain thing, girl, that's real.
Let's talk about it.
Because my youngest son just turned 26. And my oldest son's 33. The 26-year-old, I could almost tell you when I knew that brain formed. And it was nothing, it's like that problem solving, decision making space. Like I saw it like it clicked. And he even showed up differently. Because I was watching for it. I know that's terrible. I'm waiting for this to happen.
No.
When is this brain going to connect?
But as a mom, I mean, I feel like we are. Like
when is it going to happen?
I'll be honest. As someone who is in the mental health field, like I'm looking at milestones in development. And I have a 3 and a 6-year-old.
Oh, okay.
So right now, I'm more so like, okay, developmentally, where are we at with your reading skills and with all these things and with just emotional intelligence and you naming your emotions. I feel like my kids, they are good at emoting, but they also are good at naming their emotions of like, and they can also name mine of like, Mommy, you look frustrated.
That's wonderful.
And I love that. I do. Wonderful. But I think that goes back to letting kids have a voice and letting them name things and be able to name for them too of like, I don't like when you do this, know, and I can receive that. And I can still say that there are boundaries and things that have to happen.
How would she show up as an adult? In terms of thriving and being able to feel seen and heard, and especially in a space where oftentimes people of color are not included, and we're told you got to fight 10 times harder, and you got to be 110%. All this pressure of being better than over 100%, which is not even a number, but you're told you got to be 110%. That's not even a thing. How do you do that? But then you've been told, stay in your place, and that, and then now you're in corporate America, or you're an entrepreneur, or you're in the world. So how does it? What are some examples of how that can show up?
Like right off my head, I'm thinking of a young adult being lost, not really knowing who they are and seeking outside validation.
That's really good.
That's
really good.
And I mean, I just want you to think about it for a moment, right? If you have never, and I mean, I feel like as kids and as young people, they seek validation. It's like my kid showed me a drawing the other day, right? Wasn't a whole lot, super happy. And if I dismissed that drawing, it would have maybe signaled to her, I suck at this. I'm not good. I'm not good enough. Mommy's not interested, right? Even though it was just my own busyness, it was just my own preoccupation, right? But it didn't have anything to do with her. But she could have internalized that if I didn't stop what I was doing and say, "Oh my gosh, let me see the painting, let me see the drawing," right? So just imagine as we grow older. And the reality is, as we grow older, we're supposed to find ways to validate ourselves and affirm ourselves. But Imagine still seeking that validation externally. And imagine maybe receiving it at work. Maybe you do a great job and you are a high performer and you're like, okay, I'm getting promoted. I'm doing good. Like, this is filling up. This is making me feel like I'm worth something, right? Because I'm good here.
Right.
But is that who you are? Is that really defining your worth? Like, is your worth tied to just your productivity and to what you do?
And you actually saying something that's making me think, and oftentimes you'll see people where their jobs become who they are. And it becomes, pretty much representation of who they are on the earth. They lose themselves in that space because of it, and not even truly knowing, like, who am I, the core of my values, what's important to me, what's my purpose. So then it's caught up in this role that's giving you just a few little trinkets of attention or whatever, and you think that now I'm validated. And
like I say, and then you tie that to your worth, right? And then what happens when the job is gone? What happens when a layoff season happens and you're now laid off and now you don't have that? So now you're at your rock bottom, not only for stability's sake, but now the one thing that I thought I was good at and that I thought I was like, that was, I was connecting that to who I was. I don't have that. So now who am I? Who am I without the title? Who am I without the job? And I mean, this can go to relationships too. And I mean, I've seen this time and time again with, young adults getting into relationships and having to learn about themselves in these relationships and having to learn what they're willing and not willing to tolerate and how they truly deserve to be loved. And I think that's another thing that I could see happening for this, hypothetical person here we're talking about, right? Of like, what does that look like in a relationship if you're also seeking that from a partner or if you feel silenced by your partner too? Like, so it happened in childhood. And imagine if you repeat similar patterns. I always say, I told a client the other day, it's easy for us to say, oh, I don't want to be in a relationship like my parents. I don't want X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But interestingly enough, we tend
to turn
to patterns, just right? Because there's some familiarity,
right?
Is my belief of like, there is something familiar that it may not feel comforting, but maybe the familiarity is comfort. But it doesn't mean that it's healthy. It doesn't mean that's truly what you're seeking and needing in this season,
Right. And I'm glad we kind of touched on relationships, and even though we led with trauma, but I think, but that's where it shows up. That's where I think it rears its head, is in, especially those intimate relationships with your spouse or your siblings or just wherever there's an intimate circle, whatever your circle is, or lack thereof. Because of it, because of that part. So I think, relationships suffer. And oftentimes, I think I was reading in the Post, they were saying now there's actual data that's supporting loneliness. They're actually able to measure it. At first, it was just like, people are lonely and they, are you lonely? Now it's like, no, people are. I mean, Americans are showing to be like the loneliest country in the world. And think about all the other countries out there and why we have so much to offer and lonely. And I think about like, what are these traumas or what's happening to where now we're lonely because we're not able to really build those relationships that we need. I mean, we socially need to connect. We're not loners. We're not, that's not how we're created. So are you hearing that or seeing that? Like, look at your face. You're like, girl, I see it.
I see it all the time. And I mean, there's a part of me that, I talk often about being alone versus being lonely. And I feel like there are a lot of people that cannot be with themselves because they don't like themselves.
Right.
And that's a lot of the work I do sometimes of like, how do we get to a point where you can like yourself and you can be alone? Like you're going through the season of divorce right now and you're now feeling like this, you're grieving it, which once again, it is a loss, right? To lose a long-term relationship and you are not okay with yourself. You're not okay being not attached to someone. And yes, I believe you and I agree 100% that we are meant to thrive in community.
Absolutely.
And we all need a village. We all need community. And I think we also need to be okay with doing it alone at times, because when, and I just named this today too of like, well, my family's in North Carolina. We had to do it alone for a while until we built community here. And I mean, trust me, we needed that. And we had to build a village here in Arizona. But the reality is we also had to learn how to do it alone.
Without you and your spouse become like a little mini community.
Exactly. And I think that was something that I named to a couple because I was like, when you have all these outside influences, I think you have to make sure the foundation and like the nucleus is good.
God. That has to be, you have to check in on that on the regular. I always say the unit. I call it the unit because we're one.
We are.
So if the unit's breaking or is a crack in the unit, okay,
we need to address
to stop because there's no way we can get outside into the unit. So the unit has to be inspected on a regular basis, right? Because it's so important, especially if you're a parent or even just for yourself. Like you deserve it. Your unit deserves to be healthy if you're in a unit. It needs to be a healthy unit.
If you're in a unit. And I think the sad part is there are some people that are not in a unit. In reality, it's like in name.
Okay.
They are trying to be and they say they are. Right. But in reality, they're not. They're in two units.
Yes, yeah.
And they're trying to build a little bridge here to make it happen. But instead of
you can't do that.
But
you can't.
But the reality is a lot of people feel like they can.
Yeah. That bridge will eventually crash. It will decay. You can't be on two roads. You can. That's why you got to come together and you can put those roads together. But you can't. Yeah, girl. That's another podcast.
That's another podcast right
there.
I do a lot of couples work, but I love that.
I love having those conversations because I believe just on a personal level, I just believe in just healthy couples. If you're gonna do that thing, do that thing.
Do that thing and put in the work.
Right, put in the work.
Because it's work.
And know it is. Know that you're up against. So I can't expect to go to the gym and get it together without sweating and working and being consistent. Same outline. So we'll touch on that one. But so I want to understand how you transition from, because I know you're still doing a lot of just deep-seated BIPOC work, which to me feels like just supporting the community.
Yes.
Because we, people of color, we have so much that we're bringing. And a lot of us, are waking up to, I want to clean up my house.
Yes.
I want to dig into these areas that aren't comfortable. I want to be better. I want to not, I want to break that so that my kids never hear the words that we heard, and any of that, which takes some of that work. But when did the financial piece come into play? Because I'll tell you that to me, I loved how you made it wellness. Yeah. And I've heard it before.
Yes,
but
of course.
Well, but the thing is, I like the way you're doing it. I think is unique is because you're bringing it's all together. Like you can't show up at your office and look at you. Let's be talking about the financial wellness part. Like you take all the areas of a human and you service them. So how did you pivot? Yeah. What was your crystal clear moment to pivot into wellness? Well, financial wellness.
Yeah. I love that question. And I'll be honest, I think it goes back to graduate school. And I'll start there because I think it's always been present. Okay. I think I'm just now walking in a different season of my life where I feel like I'm kind of circling back to it, if that makes sense. But it started in grad school. It started with my master's program and an advisor that I was working with. And we wrote a paper that was all about financial literacy amongst college students, right? And I remember thinking, in class, we didn't really talk. Like you think about you major in something, right? Unless you majored in finance. And I don't even know if in finance classes you're actually learning about budgeting. I was a psychology major too. But I don't think even for a business person or a finance person, you're truly learning about your own. You're learning how to run a business. You're learning how to sustain an existing business.
Not even your money.
Not your money.
Right.
Yeah. So I really thought about that of like so many college students for the first time are doing their taxes in college. They work their first job most times, or they're having to navigate so many financial challenges on their own from just paying for college. Let's be real. Like that's the first hurdle for so many students of like, I got to pay tuition. I'm working a part-time job. I got to, my parents are taking me off the phone bill, so they're starting all those kind of asserting their independence with their finances. But what does socialization to that look like? How do our parents inform kind of our financial status and our financial goals and our financial awareness and knowledge? And the reality is we started doing interviews and we collected data that was like, well, for some, they never had that. Their parents never introduced them to their finances.
That conversation.
Right?
Yeah.
And I just remember the one thing I remember my mom telling me was never get a credit card. Because, they come on college campuses. And like the messaging was credit cards are bad.
Yeah. But why and how?
That was the piece that was missing. Yeah. So when I needed money, what did I do? I got that credit card. Right. And I think it was more so about like, I wish someone would have taught me early on, like the patterns of like, just make sure you pay off before the bill date, the statement date, like make sure that you're staying on top of those things. Right. So that's kind of where that started a few years back when it came to the research piece and me starting to be more intrigued. But I'll be honest, as a clinician, if your counselor is not asking you about your finances, about sex life, about religion, about culture. If those things are missing, I feel like that's problematic. And it's problematic because this is a part of your mental health and physical health. When I talk about chronic stress with clients, and I mean, this even goes back to trauma too, because financial trauma is also very real.
Absolutely.
Like I have so many clients that have named to me, and it's like they don't name it as trauma, but when you tell me that you were homeless for a season in your life or you experienced homelessness, if you tell me that there was a season where, there wasn't really food stability or, you weren't really sure about, but that's not named. Sometimes it's not acknowledged or it's not that, like, oh, that had an impact on me. And now that I have money, it's really hard for me to spend it and to enjoy it because I could always be without it.
God, that's very good.
You know what I mean?
That. Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, those conversations organically came up. And I mean, let's be honest about the current times that we're living in right now. Over the past 2 years from like, let's talk about pandemic life to now, the current socio-political climate that we're living in. And we talk about, egg prices and we talk about just tariffs and all the things that are happening. It's like, how can we not talk about finances and how your rent is going up this year? I literally had a client the other day tell me, Alexis, I'm having to move out my apartment. And of course, she had so much other things going on, but I had to pause for a moment to say, let's talk about that piece and how you're feeling about that transition of having to downsize because rent is too much right now. And that was the whole session, just talking about how she felt like a failure. She felt like in her midlife, she shouldn't have to be downsizing. Like that was a failure for her. She thought that she should be buying a house this year, but instead she's moving to another apartment that's smaller so that she can afford. And, all these conversations are happening. And I'm like, that's important. Yes, I get the job stress and I get raising your adult child and I get all these other things that are important, but let's just name that this right here, this financial stress that you're under right now is taking a toll. And you've lived with it so long, it's become almost a norm for you.
And you know what just occurred to me when you were saying that we've lived with it, there's people that generations, and it became the norm. So, one generation's poverty, the next generation's poverty, and everyone, and so maybe one or two may bust through that. But then you start seeing that cycle of just poverty and accepting that not enough is enough. That's okay to, get put out of your apartment or your home or not have enough food or trying to make ends meet.
That's just
you
life.
Can't. That's just my life. That's it.
Just the way it is.
That's the way it is. I'm good. My mama did it. Everyone else.
Grandma did it.
So how do you, attack that at a root and uncover to shift that mindset and those behaviors? How do you do that?
Oh boy. I mean, honestly, it takes the client's willingness to want to do that, right? Because the reality is like you can stay in that cycle. And I mean, the reality is if that's, I always like to ask clients of like, how was this impacting your quality of life? If you want to continue your life this way, then by all means, right? Like I'm not here to tell you that there's just one way to live your life. There's plenty of ways you can live it, right? And if a client is telling me, Alexis, I'm so tired of being in this cycle. I am ready. I'm ready for a breakthrough.
Sick
I'm
and
ready
tired
for sick and
moment,
tired.
huh?
Right?
Yeah, I'm sick and tired.
When I hear a client say that, and I mean, even before a client says that, I'll name it and I'll say, you know, I get how this has been something that's been passed down. And there's a part of me that wonders, just because it's been passed down and just because that's how you've lived your life, if that's how you have to continue living your life, and what would it look like if you didn't live like this? Can you imagine an alternative to this right here? And if a client's able to imagine it, because here's the thing, there's some clients that are like, I can't imagine, because it will never happen. Like, why are you going to have me out here hypothesizing and dreaming about something that's never going to come? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I get those clients, you know, and it's a little harder to break through sometimes. But I allow them to have that moment to acknowledge.
Because that's real for them.
It's real for them, right? I'm not here to, you know, once again, I get it. You can't picture it because you've not seen it, because you see it on TV, but like it's never been that close in proximity to you. Yeah.
And does that not matter? Let me tell you, that matters. Being able to see it. I know when my boys were small, and you know, they hear things like, you know, she's rich. My kids would say, "Oh my God, are we rich?" No, we're not. We are so not rich. Yes. And then there's wealthy, and I deliberately, strategically showed them what wealth looked like the difference between rich people and wealthy people, and so that you can understand that that's two different tax brackets all together. I mean, they move different. They look at money differently. Their relationship with it is different. Of course, because I didn't want you even though we were not in that space, I still wanted you to see that. Yes. You know, I love that. So you understand what that is. So, and then I wanted you to be able to use those words correctly. Yes. You know, they were kids, but you know how kids are. You get a new car, you're rich. We got a bigger house. Mom, are we rich? Yes. Parents are working. Yes. Parents are rich.
But you know what? I've reframed. And I mean, I guess you're right. I love that you taught your kids that and showed them that. And there's a part of me, I literally just had this conversation with my 6-year-old because she asked us that very question.
Are we rich?
Are we rich? Or, you know, it was the reverse. Are we poor?
Okay.
She asked, are we poor?
Okay, yeah.
And her dad in the kitchen was laughing. And I said, no, Amani. I said, no. And she's asked me, are we rich before too? And my answer is yes, we are. Because while bank account wise, we may not be rich, but I like to reframe that we are rich in love. We're rich in culture. We are rich in flexibility. Right. Like to have a dad that works from home and that is able to be home with you whenever you need. Like mom may have to go in the office every once in a while, but still to have flexibility. Right. We don't name that enough of like, not every parent is present.
Right.
So we are rich in being able to be here for one another and to show up in those ways. And some of your rich friends who may be, you know, economically and financially
may not be rich in that other area.
May not be rich. They'll be poor in that, poor in culture, not know who they are, not know about their history, not have family traditions, not have quality family time. I was at the pool today with my kids. We were playing today. Right. You know, so really naming that. And I'm like, so for me, I feel like those are things that
I love that. And I love how you even brought that back, even for me. That absolutely, I get that, and I love that you're doing it with your kids. Yes, and you can just see even our generations how we're getting better. We're getting better at understanding and explaining. So good for you. Yeah, and your kids are rich. You know, they have you. Yes, and they have their fixing the world. They have their dad, and and
they have a village of people that love them and that support them and show up for them. And I'm like, I think, you know, really reminding a kid. And today we were talking about gratitude because it's something that I'm really trying to instill in my family of like, we're doing a family gratitude jar, right? And I'm like, okay, I got a mason jar. And we used to go around table at dinner and just say like, what are we grateful for today, right? But I'm like, we got to take it a step beyond because I think in the world of just wanting more and just the chaos of everything. And I got a toddler and she tantrums sometimes. I'm like, how do we slow things down and just remind us of like, I am grateful for X, Y, and Z, and like being able to name it as a family and being able to pour into that and to have this representation of all these things over the past year that we can look back on to say, we were grateful in these moments. And like, let's never forget that as we move through the next year, as we move through life and desire more, want to go on a family vacation, want more for ourselves, but that we can honor the things that we do have and the things that we're blessed with, you know?
Yes,
so I feel like that is one way that I've been trying to ground our family and just even myself too, because I think you can always be on the chase and the hunt for more, but there is some beauty in just honoring what you have. Yeah.
So what are you grateful for?
Grateful for my health.
Yeah.
I've been taking that more seriously lately. I'll be honest.
That's a really good thing to pay attention to, especially culturally for women.
Yes.
It's real important.
Hypertension will not take over me.
Yes.
Okay. It will not become the defining thing.
Absolutely.
I don't have it. Like, I'm trying to name that. I still am working through that right now, but it's just something that I've really been trying to hone in on more of like prioritizing that. That was the one thing that used to be like off, like if I was busy with the million things I had grading, teaching, clients, I would just take the gym off. I would take the meal prepping off.
That's the first.
And that honestly.
But that takes rewiring.
Oh my gosh.
Like your mindset.
Say that.
Really does.
Yes.
It's a rewiring.
It's a rewiring.
And then it's fueled by consistency. Like I don't think anyone ever nails it. It's just every day, am I going to go to gym?
Yes.
Every day, am I going to do this? Am I going to make myself first?
Yes.
Am I going to work out? Am I going to eat the right? It's like an everyday messaging.
It is.
Unless it's your profession and you're the 5% that do it.
Right.
Most of us
have to work at it. Going back to putting in work, it's a relationship with my body that I am now putting in the work on. I'm like, okay, well, we've ate a bunch of things and then we shouldn't have it. So just taking accountability. And I think that's the one thing that I can really name that I'm in the season. Of course, my family. It's like, I really do pride myself in being family first and family centered. And I'm like, everything else professionally and career wise could be going great, but like home has to be great too.
It has to be.
It has to. Yeah.
That's an order. That's a biblical principle
for me. Yes.
And maybe not for others, but typically most religions or spiritual practices really do put family at a higher level.
Yes.
Behind your power, maybe God or whatever. So
that's for me too.
It's pretty consistent, the family, the community part, and it's good. I'm really proud that you're doing that.
Yeah,
it makes the difference, especially when they're older. It makes that's your community. That you're building with your family.
Yes.
So as we wrap up, I want. Do you have some tips? For someone, and then of course share, how we can get to you because there's some people out there who want to be financial warriors. Yeah, and they want to get it together.
Let's get it together. And look, I'm on the journey too. Okay, I name that in transparency. Yes. I'm like, we will be debt free. Okay, we are paying off student loans. We are paying off things. So yes,
I love that. Yes. And you're relatable with it. Like some people are still under the shame umbrella, and it's nothing. No, it's nothing to be ashamed of. So what are some tips that you can offer up for someone who's really interested in becoming well financially?
Yes. Okay. I'll just start with, knowing your values. Like it is so important to really know what is the goal? Like what is it that matters most to me? And I think even going back to the family piece, right? So my order really would be God, family, health, and maybe my, career and helping others really. Cause I call myself a servant. Like I really feel like I'm here to serve others. Right.
That's me.
So that goes back to community too, right? Of like, it's giving back. So it isn't just a career or a job. Like it is what I feel like I'm called to do. Right. But one of the things I'll say is like being really values driven of like, you have to know what it is you're working towards, because I think when you don't see that, like when you're just like, I'm mindlessly I'm budgeting, I'm saving money, and like, I'm saving money for what? Like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. Right. And it's like, well, intentional. Right. Like it's about this intentionality of like, I know my values are family. I know my values are, whatever your financial values are, to be debt free, to save for retirement. It's like, well, every penny that you spend needs to move in alignment with that. With that value in mind, because when you're misaligned, I think you'll be able to catch yourself sooner to be like, where is that in my vision? Like, where is that in my value? You know what I mean?
So that can show up like if your value is to be debt free.
Yep.
That can show up your misalignment when you're spending your money. You're spending your money on things that are not on your budget.
Yep.
Okay, so that's one way to see if you're out of line, or you're aligned when you're staying with your budget because your value is to be debt free.
That's it.
Okay,
yes,
good.
yes. But it's like, you have to really know what is the value here, So I think a lot of times that's the missing link of like people don't really know what it is they value.
All right.
And I think that can help. And then the other thing that I'm thinking about is really checking, going back to those kind of passed down generational traumas, right? Really checking some of those messages that have been passed down to us.
Girl, that may stop people for a minute. That may be like, okay.
We got to do some work sometimes. We got to do some work. But I think naming them, like I think we at least have to name it because we can't name, if we can't name it, then it's like, okay, how am I going to heal it?
It becomes your norm.
Becomes the norm.
Yeah.
So naming this message of, we'll never be out of poverty. We'll never be debt free.
Right.
People, good things don't happen to us. Like we're always going to be stuck.
Everybody has hypertension in my family.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Everybody's a diabetic.
And I hear people say that all the time.
Like everybody's a diabetic.
Are we claiming that? Are we claiming that?
Yes.
I'm not claiming that.
Not
I refuse it. Okay.
Yes.
So I think it's like really going back to the intentionality piece of like being mindful of what you speak over your finances, just like what you speak over your body, what you speak over your family. It's like whatever you say.
That's good, doctor.
I really do believe like we find ways to manifest that.
Right.
So find ways to speak life into your finances, to speak wellness and that you're going to be whole, that you're going to be able to manage everything that I can. I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way. Like just honoring that piece, I think could be super helpful.
So we have know your values. And the second thing, our second tip would be, know your traumas.
Yes.
Name them.
Yes.
Challenge yourself and really, pick through that and name them.
Yes.
So what would be the third one?
Third thing, I'll just say, I talked about this at the Equity Forum, but it's a good book called Atomic Habits, right? Yeah. And I love it because it really talks about different habits in life, right? And it goes back to like, who do you want to be? The type of person that you want to be. And it goes back to the gym thing, right? I could say, I'm not a workout person. I'm not going to the gym. But it's like, well, do you want to be someone who's consistent at the gym? Well, do you get your things out the night before? Do you make it accessible and easy? And the same thing goes with our finances. It's like, well, what type of person do you want to be? Do you want to be a good steward over your finances? So it's like, how do you work on some of those habits? So I'd say really just acknowledging the existing habits that aren't serving you. Like we have to be aware of like, what's not serving me? And I can tell you one thing that isn't serving a lot of us, and it's those subscriptions that we have sometimes.
Oh, I canceled one just today. I'm not kidding.
Did you really?
I am not kidding.
Yes.
I canceled one today. Absolutely.
That you're not using.
I'm not even using it at all.
Yes.
I mean, I don't even need it. And it's like $15.
Yes.
But times 12?
Yes. And I was paying for 2 gym memberships.
Yes.
And I just canceled one membership the other day.
See, look at
because
that.
I'm just using one gym primarily. I'm like, why do I have 2? I know why I had it initially, but I'm like, like releasing some of those things. So those are habits that I think if you really sit down with yourself and you sit down with your finances, you can tap into. And it's a beautiful thing when you start to notice patterns and you start to see those things that you can remove and you're like, I can get this off. DoorDash, I tell all my clients, if you have like all the food apps on your phone,
go pick up your food.
Go pick up, just make it more difficult also, right? So if the goal is to have a healthier lifestyle, and that's something for me, right? Of like, Alexis, you need to start cooking more. Right. Well, it's so easy and convenient to say, I'm going to DoorDash this versus now I got to go pick up my Chipotle. Yeah. You're telling me I got to go get in my car and drive to go get it, or am I going to make something at the house?
Right. It does.
So I think those are habits that we can, try to, attack one by one, right?
Yeah,
Small habits. Small
and what's
habits.
the name of that book again?
Atomic Habits.
Okay, Atomic Habits. Love it.
Yes.
So as we wrap up, I just love the different areas we went into.
Agreed.
Because we're complex. So there's like not one way to heal.
No.
And I love that you look at the whole person and you deal with all the spaces of them. So I'm definitely going to invite you back because there's a couple areas I'd love for you just to really lean into. I'm really feeling like relationships, like young adult relationships. I think that's we can mess with that.
Oh,
right,
girl, we can get into it. That could be a couple of series because I'm going to tell you.
I tell you.
It's a lot.
I know it's a lot because I mentor so many young adults and I hear it. And, what I don't like is when people different generations say, well, we've done it before and we did it, and it's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. So we got to break those generational curses, okay?
And I'm like by myself trying to do it.
Look, I tell everyone, there was this running joke, and I mean, I will end with this, but it's so funny when you see like those memes that's like, oh, my grandma was married for 70-some years. And I say, was grandma happily married?
Grandma was not happy.
Was grandma, was she just enduring? Was she, staying committed to the covenant? Was she just the home, like, staying, taking care of the home, and just doing what her role was? Even though
that's why she stayed in them house shoes.
Stayed in that moo-moo and them house shoes. Yes, grandma was comfortable.
Right, she was like,
she had a man going to work and coming home.
Right.
But that was, once again, what they tolerated, that generation. They were like, well, my man is bringing the check home.
Yep.
I keep the home in order. I got the kids, But then acknowledging that as we've moved through life, things have changed. Now, a lot of times we have two working people in a home. So those dynamics can't look the same as it looked with Mima and them that was doing that, right? But it's like we don't shift sometimes our perspectives when it comes to that. So it's just honoring that as we've shifted and moved through. But yeah.
So lastly, my question to you is, what's on your playlist? What are you listening to?
Ooh.
What you jamming to this summer?
Okay, so I am going to a Coco Jones concert coming up next week. So I love Coco Jones' new album.
I love her.
Okay. I've always been kind of like a 90s girl, and I can always play like my neo soul playlist.
Okay, Jill Scott.
Jill Scott is my girl.
Like,
Jilly from Philly.
Okay,
definitely. Love Jill Scott.
Love her.
Okay, like the Music Soul Child.
Lauryn Hill. All that.
Yes, Indy Iris. Like those are my vibes. Okay,
love it.
So always on my playlist. I love a good Mary J. Mary J is always on for me. But like I say, newer stuff. There's an artist called Blast that I really love. He makes like good, feel good music. Love Anderson .Paak.
Oh, definitely.
So Bruno Mars, like I can listen to a lot of different things. Yeah,
like that sultry soul.
Yes,
love
it. Love that.
Love it. Well, you enjoy your music, and thank you for being a guest.
Thank you.
Look forward to having you come back. And everyone, remember, YouTube, Crystal Clear Moments. Go to the search bar, put in Crystal Clear Moments.
Yes.
I'm going to pop up with this beautiful picture. I want you to subscribe and then like, okay? And then also, you can always hear me on all the platforms. And again, thank you for tuning in to Crystal Clear Moments.
Yes.